Oh yeah, welcome ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to another video in our somewhat weekly Skyrim mod series. A series where we go through the hottest, most interesting mods on Nexus. Now, I say recent, but with the length of these videos getting longer and longer, and I guess the quality getting better and better, I'm not able to bring this out as rapidly as I did before. And there's some mods in this video you might find to be a couple of weeks old. I am still trying to figure out how to properly pair this YouTube thing up with uni. You know, when I do upload videos, I want them to be as good as possible, giving you all that entertainment that'll satisfy, giving you all that tingly feeling down in your nether regions and making all the juices in your body burst with excitement. Interpret that however you want. Anyways, I quickly want to thank you guys for all the support recently. This channel's seeing some amazing numbers and it really means a lot. Thank you for taking the time out of your day to watch, like, comment, and letting me keep on creating content on something I'm so passionate about. The Skyrim modding community is fucking special. All these years with mod authors putting in time and effort, using their creative minds to put together modifications that have given thousands of people, including myself, so much joy. It's simply amazing, and amazing is definitely the keyword describing the mods we'll take a look at in this video. So allow me to stop this lollygagging as we take a look at the first couple of mods of the video. If you've ever ventured out in the lands of Skyrim, it's pretty much impossible for you to wander around without encountering one of the many farms of this Nordic region. Whether you find yourself on the eastern bank of the White River in the small, peaceful village of Riverwood, or the chilling outskirts of Windhelm in the whole of Eastmarch, these farms are to be seen everywhere, and something so synonymous to the very landscape of Skyrim has to look its best. And while the vanilla farmhouses don't look too bad, I'm of the belief that there is always improvement to be had, and such improvement is to be found with the mod WizKid Parallax Farmhouses. This mod provides you with a complete overhaul of all farmhouse related models. First off, as you can see, it greatly improves upon the farmhouses themselves, bringing them a more colorful and vibrant look, while at the same time looking realistic and well fitting to the lore. It affects all the parts of the structure, from the stone walls to the roof, also held up by logs, to the very door. The most noticeable feature, especially of these new stunning looking walls, is how the high quality textures work with the Parallax shader fix, a mod that's highly recommended to get the most out of WizKid's textures, giving these stones protruding out of the mud a true 3D depth never seen before. Going up to take a close look at these walls will give you nothing short of immense pleasure, you know. There's a lot of high quality texture mods out there, but only a select few have made me as happy as I get when passing by these new farmhouses. The mod truly springs new life into these farming land sites of Skyrim. Of course, it does the same to the wooden farmhouse models as well, as there's no denying the newfound sense of warmth added to your game with these plank textures. Moving on to the interiors, there's still no disappointment to be had. With the new stone floor, it really gives the game that next-gen feel, doesn't it? Now, with the farmhouses looking as good as this, it really wouldn't be fit for the surrounding models and textures to look out of place. That is why the mod covers every farmhouse related model to be seen in villages like Riverwood, from the outer walls to the new smaller stone walls, which by the way goes amazingly well with the mod Ivy by Mary, which I've previously covered. WizKids left no stone unturned here, like literally, the new stone walls textures have been added to stuff like wells and fire pits as well. Just take a look at this. Has the village of Rorikstead ever really looked this good? The new textures blend wonderfully in with the landscape, and with the all-important farmhouses looking as good as this, well, why not make them look even better? Yes, cause next up we've got the mod SD's Farmhouse Fences SE by SD Lutz, and as the title of the mod suggests, it provides you with new fences for the farmhouses. Yes, I said fences as there's two options to pick from to replace the vanilla fence, that to be honest doesn't look all that bad, but it doesn't really stand out, does it? Well, that changes as we take a look at the first variant of the mod in what is a more sturdy interpretation of the farm fence with its thick and big logs. I really do like this one. It goes nicely with the farmhouses and brings the biggest visual change to your game. You'll definitely make notice of this new fence when wandering around. Going in closer, the 4K textures seen on the logs of the fence look really good, and I really like how the fence twists and turns in different directions. It's perfectly imperfect in a way, pretty much exactly how I'd imagine a handmade farmhouse fence would look. The second variation of the fence that comes with the mod has been made of a more similar approach to the vanilla ones, with the fence logs and sticks being of a more thinner fashion. But when comparing it to the vanilla fence and the other variant, the logs on this one point upwards rather than sideways. While I personally prefer the first variant, this one does look quite good as well. At the end of the day, it all comes down to your own personal taste. But no matter which one you choose, you can be sure that both you and the farm livestock of Skyrim will be more than satisfied with what the mod author has produced here. Pairing this one up with the previous mod by WizKid is something I definitely recommend doing. Both the mods greatly improve upon the smaller villages. Now that we've got the farmhouses covered, I'd like to take a look at another overhaul mod that came out at the end of last month. It's a mod that focuses on the Nordic temples and ruins, and while I'm already quite satisfied with the textures I've already gotten used from the very popular noble Skyrim, I believe the ancient aesthetics and lore friendliness of the mod author Spiffy Skytrooper's venerable Nordic temples is definitely worth taking a look at. From colossal exteriors to the newfound glyphs, down in the depths on the catacomb walls, the mod aims to immerse the player in the architecture of the ancient Nords. It covers all interior and exterior architecture textures for ancient Nord buildings like the infamous Bleak Falls Barrow we all know so well. As you can see, although not something too drastic, it makes a nice change to the walls, in textures that are indeed of a very high quality, well fitted to show off the might of the ancient Nords that used to roam these walls, now awakened from the dead as a Draugr found down in the catacombs. And it's definitely inside the mod makes the biggest change. Once you've maneuvered your way to the entrance of one of these Nordic temples, you'll instantly be met by the newly textured entrances, in what is a very ancient look with these crumbling walls that look like they'll collapse at any second. Inside, the change made by this mod is simply night and day, with better looking clean walls covered by all these glyphs, giving off a sense of mystique and eeriness at the same time as being incredibly intriguing to the eye. It really adds a lot to these ancient caves and makes them feel a bit more special to any other typical bandit cave you find across Skyrim. I especially like the mix-up of both the texture we've already seen and the brick wall. It really looks outstanding in the dark with that shimmering glimmer of light reflecting off the surface. Along with interior and exterior textures, the mod also tweaks and lightly retextures some of the stuff and items found in here to better fit into these new surroundings. I especially made notice of the fine wood textures found on the stairs or when exploring the special rooms found within the catacomb walls. This mod is definitely a more than adequate addition to your next Skyrim playthrough to make the most out of your experience exploring the Nordic temples. Next, we've got a very exciting new animation mod that makes use of the Nemesis engine. Ever since the release of Nemesis, we've seen a constant stream of amazing mods that set out to make the movement in Skyrim feel more realistic. There's no denying that the base vanilla animations look a bit outdated, as you see your character abruptly shifting direction without any sense of momentum. You know, there's simply no physics here. That, however, changed with the release of The Servant's very popular combat gameplay overhaul, adding some nice features like procedural leading. Since then, there's been a couple of very good mods released by other mod authors to use on top of this, including various ones from a mod author whose mods I've featured in my recent videos. I'm of course talking about the incredibly talented Retrospect, as he's released another mod, this time in the form of Movement Behavior Overhaul. With this mod, you'll be able to experience realistic movement like never seen before, starting with immersive transitioning behavior added to the running movement when switching to the opposite direction, allowing for a proper transition over the very abrupt vanilla directional transitions. I've always had a distaste of that movement, so this mod is very much appreciated. Whether turning from left to right or opposite, or backwards to forwards, you'll see more of a responsive behavior from your character befitting the directional change. Another feature of this mod is a sprint momentum stop. I actually featured this one as a standalone mod in the last Skyrim mods video. Quickly explain for those of you that haven't watched that video, which by the way is a big no-no, it adds a realistic stopping behavior at the end of sprinting. The mod author decided to take the standalone mod down and include it in this movement behavior overhaul mod instead, as a nice complete package. And in that package, there's more for us to unravel. As can be seen, the mod incorporates The Servant's procedural leading mechanic but with adjusted values, so there is a difference. In terms of compatibility, it can be used with The Servant's combat gameplay overhaul through a patch, although with a slight change in the procedural leaning. When it comes to his 360 movement behavior mod, it's partially compatible, as you'll get some of the features but not the transitional behaviors. But if that 360 movement is something you really need, then you'll be happy to know that movement behavior overhaul is compatible with the mod 360 walk and run plus. So there are different ways to go about this mod depending on what you prefer. Another feature of the mod is a newly added silent roll, accessible as an additional alternative to the vanilla one. You'll have to spend an extra point in the perk system to obtain the ability. This new slide actually comes from the mod author Knickknack of another new mod called Crouch Sliding, a mod I highly recommend installing to get the most out of it. As I've already mentioned, it provides a player with a crouch slide animation, activated by pressing the sneak while sprinting. Following the slide, you'll see a nice effect take place in the form of dust gathering up as you hit the ground. Now yes, it certainly looks epic, there's no denying that, but what usage will you get out of it, you might ask? Well, it can be used to ragdoll any surrounding NPCs away from you. Yes, you heard that right. Whether to annoy the citizens of Skyrim or add to your arsenal in combat, the new sliding animation functions as a tool to quickly get an opponent face down onto the ground. This can actually be quite effective in certain boss type fights, where you'll be able to follow up with strikes as your opponent tries to get back up on their feet. speed. But do you know what's even greater? Spawning in a bunch of Nazeems and sliding into them like a bowling ball, knocking them all over like pins.
What do you think you're doing?
Oh, they're coming for me. The Nazeems are finally fighting back. Oh! No matter how you decide to use it, you know, whatever animation mods you pair it up with, Movement Behavior Overhaul by Retrospect is certain to provide you with realistic movement that'll make your animations look and feel more modern in a way. All the features work wonderfully, especially the crouch sliding provided by Knickknack. That one's really fun to use. Continuing in the direction of immersion, we move on to the mod Dirt and Blood Dynamic Visual Effects by J Serpa. This simple and lightweight mod sets out to add a couple of visual effects to make your Skyrim game more realistic without affecting the gameplay, and that, I must say, it does quite nicely. First, there's a dirt effect. As you've probably guessed by now, it adds dirt. Yes, as adventurers, we usually spend countless days roaming around in the wild, and naturally, the mod makes it so that dirt appears on both your character's body and face. But it is in the dynamic system of the effect that makes the mod stand out, meaning your character will become dirtier as time goes on within these 4 stages of dirt. The dirt, of course, looks as dirt should, reflecting all the time you've spent in the wild without cleaning yourself. Although, as I said, the mod aims to not affect gameplay too much, there are 2 exceptions. If you've reached the latter 2 stages of dirt level, you will get small debuffs to your speech-related abilities, primarily when it comes to prices, persuasion, and intimidation, because people like Luke and Valerius ain't got time for you dirty folk. Being dirty also decreases your resistance to diseases. Although small, these changes exist as simple reminders that you might want to get cleaned, which then might make you wonder, how does one get rid of the dirt? Well, through cleaning, of course. More specifically, default actions like swimming will wash most of the dirt away, as well as standing in the rain, albeit not as effective. The most effective way to clean yourself is through the new washing ability, which will perform an animation, leaving you as clean as a baby's bottom. Taking care of yourself like this is rewarded through a nice 5% price discount when buying from merchants. Most of this applies to the blood effect as well, which appears both on NPCs and your character when in combat, making the game feel more brutal in a way as you hack and slash your way through enemies. Leaving a battle without showing any signs of it just isn't immersive, but with this mod, you can be sure that everyone and their mother will be able to tell that you've been ambushed by bandits or attacked by a pack of wolves by simply taking a quick look at you. Both of these effects add some much appreciated immersion to the game. Even if you play with the first person camera most of the time, you'll still see dynamic dirt on various NPCs like beggars, bandits, blacksmiths, and hunters. If you find certain aspects of the mod less satisfactory, then you'll be happy to know that pretty much everything's configurable through the mod configuration menu, along with optional effects like needing soap to wash yourself, as well as hair and beard reminders. Next up, we've got a mod that might be the best mage type Skyrim mod to ever surface on Nexus. It certainly is the best one to have come out in 2020. With over a whopping 20,000 downloads in a couple of weeks, we've got the mod Triumvirate Mage Archetypes by ENB Light. Sion? I don't know. Anyways, he's the mod author behind mods like Apocalypse, Magical Skyrim, and Ordinator. Now, Triumvirate is not like any other mod. It doesn't just add a bunch of new spells to your game. Or wait, it actually kinda does. But it does that in an organized fashion, meaning all the spells are categorized into 5 new mage archetypes or classes, designed for different types of playthroughs. There's a lot of stuff to take a look at here, with 15 spells allocated to each archetype. First, there's a Hercene worshipping mage attuned to nature, the Druid. The Druid looks to avoid direct combat, often making use of nature-shaping abilities or minions with mage skills of conjuration, alteration, and restoration. The different summonable minions are of course what makes out the conjuration spells. From the Novice Call Raven spell, which summons a raven, the summonable rattlesnakes, a fierce grey wolf, a freaking snow leopard, as well as the all-powerful Hound of Hercene through the Master spell. All these creatures look vastly different from one another and offer their own unique special abilities. To summon one of these, you simply equip the spell and use it. Yeah, I guess that's pretty obvious, but the way you do it here is quite different from other conjuration spells, where you use it once and your summonable creature starts walking around. Here, you've actually gotta keep the spell going, as the minions vanish when you let go and release the casting animation. This means that you can summon 2 at once when using both hands for magic, either using the same summonable creature twice or mixing it up to make use of their different abilities. The summonable raven makes for a very nice distraction for when taking on a bigger group of enemies, as it flies around blinding draining targets, reducing their weapon skills by 40 points. With the Raven offering a distraction from the air, the Rattlesnakes come with a more grounded approach, as they slither around attacking your enemies from below, dealing 2 points of poison damage per second. The Raven and the Rattlesnakes actually pair up quite nicely when in use. Moving on to the Powerhouses, there's the Grey Wolf, striking fear into its enemies as it attacks, causing living targets below 20% health to rapidly bleed out. The Snow Leopard goes around attacking, draining 40 points of stamina at the same time as being faster in combat. The Master spell that calls upon the Hound of Hircine is quite neat as well. Not only does it look very frightening and powerful, but its attacks reduce armor by 250 points for 10 seconds. Yes, it is indeed very deadly and will cut through most enemies with ease. Moving on to the Druid's alteration spells, there are even more noteworthy spells to make you feel closer to nature in both spirit and body. If you're ever to find yourself at a scene of murder, as the murderer, we all know that getting rid of the body is of the utmost importance. Not that I of course have any special insight on this matter, it's just general knowledge, I guess. Anyways, the Nova spell Druidcraft lets nature reclaim corpses. Casting the spell upon a dead body destroys it with a random harvestable plant growing out of that same spot, providing you with an ingredient for all forms of practices a druid might oblige to. The Force of Nature spell lets you assume the form of a special looking horned lord for 60 seconds, making your melee attacks lethal while at the same time being able to cast spells with the other hand. Wild Shape allows you to assume the form of a deer while sprinting out of combat for when you gotta go fast, moving 30% faster for 60 seconds. Altering the very landscape itself is the awesome Impenetrable Grove spell, raising a wall of trees where the caster points, blocking passage and giving you some room to breathe. Just keep in mind that this doesn't make you safe from arrows. With every Archer of Skyrim being at a prime phase level of accuracy, you will never escape those arrows. The Master spell for the Alteration branch is called Chase the Horizon. When cast, it transports you and nearby allies in a 30-foot circle to a target location within 600 feet. Last up for the Druid, there's the Restoration spells, and as you'd expect from spells of this skill, it focuses on health with the novice spell Spirit of the Oak, through a very cute little spirit ball thing that makes a satisfying sound. This little ball grants the caster and living allies 20 points of health for 60 seconds. This gets an increase to 120 seconds with the Master spell Spirit of the Sun. However, there are some spells here of use if you're looking to deal some damage, like Parasitic Growth, where you grow plants out of your enemy's flesh, dealing 1 point of bleed and poison damage for 15 seconds, with an increase up to 10 points when making use of the Bramble Growth spell, where instead of on your enemies, you grow a bed of brambles out of the ground. Moving on to the next archetype, we go from the green forest to a more darker atmosphere as we take a look at the Shadow Mage. Shadow magic is a rare and powerful form of magic in the Elder Scrolls universe. Becoming more effective in darkness, Shadow Mages are very mobile, often looking to strike first, strike hard, and disappearing, specializing in the magic of alteration, destruction, and illusion. Starting off with the alteration spells, we see the focus on mobility, with spells like Shadow Stride allowing you to move 50% faster and step through shadows, allowing you to dash the target up to 150 feet away, reducing their armor by 100 points for 10 seconds in the process, with the same effect available when using Pull Through Shadows as well, the spell that pulls the target to you instead, cloaking the enemy in some epic shadow magic as it affects the armor. The Master spell Nightgate is of the transportation kind, deploying 2 shadow portals on walkable terrain, allowing passage in both directions of the portal within 100 feet. By the way, that's about 30 meters for you who don't mess around with those weird ass measurements. Now, while mobility is important, the Shadow Mage is no stranger to dealing damage as we take a look at the destruction spells. The Draining Touch is in fact not a description of the evolutionary female act of emotionally draining men, but a spell that lets you absorb 4 points of health and magicka per second from the target for 30 seconds, with the expert level Draining Shroud doing something similar, but with an increase to 20 points per second for 60 seconds instead. Azra's Wrath converts 50% of your magicka into magic damage through a shockwave of shadow energy, sending your enemies flying. When lined up face to face with an enemy, Nightblade lets you perform a dash attack from 50 feet, converting 50% of your magicka into bonus damage when landing a strike. Lastly, performing the Draining Mist spell covers a surrounding area with a shadow-infused mist, absorbing 30 points of health and and magicka per second. Next are the illusion spells. Of this skill, you will find spells like Darkness that, as the name suggests, creates a 10-foot source of darkness for a short period of time, as well as a very elusive possession spell where targets up to level 40 fight for the caster in a frenzy with 40% added damage, while at the same time refusing to die for 30 seconds. The master leveled spell, Nightfall, provides you with this flying thingy, providing you with shadows following you for 60 seconds as you gain all known shadow mage buffs, indeed making you very, very powerful, more than worthy of being called a follower of the dark arts. Next is the archetype with strong interaction between vile damage spells and summonings, the Daedra worshipping Warlock. Yes, Warlocks, well known for binding the spirits of those who die under the effects of their destructive spells. Their specialities lie within the skills of destruction, conjuration, and illusion. Similarly to the druids, Warlocks are also given abilities within conjuration to conjure different types of summons, like the funny looking Gremlin, the Temple Grim, the Fierce Ravager, the Mighty Magister, and the incredibly powerful Leviathan. All of the creatures are summonable for 60 seconds with the exception of the Leviathan as a master spell, being summonable for 180 seconds. All of these summons offer different types of abilities once an enemy spirit's been offered. The Gremlin, while at times deciding to run away, actually comes in hand with a 40% chance of disarming targets. The Magister is able to not only kick ass with its spells, but with an offered spirit, it regenerates magicka at a faster pace of 25 points per second. The Leviathan is indeed very deadly, immobilizing and bleeding its targets. Yes, it's powerful, maybe a bit too powerful, but it's conjured through a master spell, so I guess we'll allow it. Also, be prepared for its very creepy movement as it follows you, or you might be subjected to nightmares in your coming nights. Now, while conjuring stuff is a lot of fun, Warlocks also like to deal damage themselves, which is where the destruction skill comes in. First, there's the Eldritch Blast, a warping blast, dealing 20 points of raw damage. As you can see, it looks very pleasing to the eye, especially as your enemies succumb to your purple flame-like magic, binding their spirit in what is a cool red effect. The closest thing you'll get to Game of Thrones Wildfire in Skyrim is the Balefire spell, a corrupting fire dealing 15 points of magic damage, also causing burns in form of 2 points of poison damage for 10 seconds. Rocking a more violet color is the Witch Bolt, letting you shoot bolts of dark fire. Again, seeing your enemies burn to a slow, excruciating pain has never quite been as aesthetically pleasing as this. The expert leveled Cloud Kill deals 50 magic damage through a corrupting blast, leaving a 20 poison damage dealing cloud that absolutely shreds everyone who finds themselves in its midst. Now, with all of these destruction spells being of such an epic caliber, you might be wondering what possible monstrosity of a spell the master spell might be. As excited as I was to try it out, I got in the middle of a group of bandits whom willingly volunteered, and as I used the spell, they vanished into nothing. Safe to say, I was indeed very confused, so then I spawned in this random bandit. Let's call him Nazim's son, and let's just say he's fucked. Much to my surprise, as the spell was cast, the previous bandits appeared yet again, and I understood I was in control of some portal. That is when I came to find out more about the spell, called Hurl into Oblivion, a spell that not only deals 60 damage, but also flings survivors into oblivion until the spell is cast yet again. Sending the bandits again back into oblivion resulted in them coming back very much dead, and some naked for some mysterious reason. But ladies and gentlemen, I think it's safe to say that this is a spell of the extraordinary arts. Finally, the Warlock possesses skill in illusion as well, with spells that indeed give off a very similar visual look in the form of these magical balls that appear above the heads of your enemies. These balls of magic are cursed, and with the spell weaken, your enemies will find their attack damage to be reduced by 20%. Frailty results in an armor reduction of 150 points. Iron Maiden deals 25 damage each time they choose to attack or cast spells. This one looks quite funny in action. Life Tap absorbs 40 points of health when melee attacking. And last but not least, there's the Decrepify, making your enemies suffer a 50% reduce in weapon speed, 20% slowed movement, and lose 50 points of stamina per second, basically making them powerless to your Warlock might. Out of all the archetypes of NI Scion's mod, I'd say the Warlock spells are my favorite, and I'd be interested to know yours down below in the comments section, at the end of the video of course. As next, we take a look at the Cleric, a healer, paladin, or inquisitor. They can cast holy fire, strengthen both allies and themselves, as well as turn enemies into allies. They are a vital part of any group of warriors on the battlefield, with magical skills in restoration, destruction, and illusion. The restoration spells mainly come in use when together with an ally, like Aura of Vigor, healing both you and allies with 15 points per second, also given invulnerability for 2 seconds at release. Supporting your allies even more, there's also the Simple Aid, giving allies a 30-point bonus to all skill level while casting. There's even Mass Immortality, giving nearby allies unlimited health regeneration for 30 seconds. Of course, for the moments when the Cleric might find themselves without allies, they make use of a set of destruction spells. Among these is a simple Solar Ray, a beam of light dealing 6 points of fire and sun damage per second. There's also attack enhancing spells like Holy Fire, adding 10 fire and sun damage to power attacks, and Holy Shock, dealing 50 shock and sun damage, resulting in what you might call bad luck for any foe. And for when the Cleric finds themselves in battle, at the point of no other option as they're surrounded by a large group of enemies, they can make use of the powerful Storm of Vengeance, a storm of what is called Holy Fury, dealing 8 points of fire, shock, and sun damage per second to all enemies for 30 seconds. Then, of a more creative variety, the Cleric is also a practitioner in the art of illusion. Simple spells like Suggestion can be used to make creatures and people up to level 10 obey simple commands. The Exile spell actually hides the target from the world space for 15 seconds before they pop back in. You can even make use of Spirit Guardian to manifest the idealized spirit of your race for 7,200 seconds, making them good companions to have by your side for the duration of a quest. The Master spell Exodus is a more advanced version of Exile, hiding all specimen up to level 40 for a duration of 60 seconds, making it optimal when in need to run away from a sticky situation. The Cleric is definitely a solid archetype and build to make use of in your next Skyrim playthroughs. And moving on to the final archetype of the Triumvirate mod, we find the worshipper of the All-Maker, the Earth Bones, or the Old Ways, the Shaman. Shamans are all about intel and manipulation of both enemies and the terrain. Their spells mainly revolve around spirits, visions, totems, and oneness with the land, specializing in the skills of conjuration, alteration, and restoration. Within the conjuration spells, you'll find spells like Create Water, Tree, and Earth Totem. All as the name suggests, of course creating totems that either heal 5 points of health and magicka per second, deal 10 poison damage per second, or cast 120 point damage tremors, leaving your enemies shook. There's also 2 spells summoning something called the Filja. These are controllable as you leave your body behind, either controlling the wind one or the sun one, both being incredibly useful in combat. The spells of the Alteration branch are very interesting as well, with Eye of the All-Maker letting you survey the area. Not gonna lie, this one's a bit clunky. There's also the spell that raises freaking full solid walls of rock from the ground, called Invoke the Bones. The Shaman's also able to enhance power attacks, either reducing 150 of armor and 25% magical resistance with Stave of Ferocity, or immobilizing targets with 25% chance to disarm with Stave of Binding. This one actually binds your enemies with a visible chain. Sacred Hearth, which is a master spell, lets you consecrate the area as your hearth, and recasting it will allow you to return to that spot in spirit form. This is certainly some creepy stuff, well fitted for the Shaman archetype. Alright, I'm not sure about how long I've been talking about these spells now, but yes, if you were wondering if you'll get a good amount of high quality spells with this mod, yes. In order to obtain these though, you'll have to buy them from specific people whom share one or more aspects with the specific archetype you're looking to make your own. Indeed, very immersive. Both the vendors and the rest of the spells are all listed nicely on the mod page, but if that's too much of a hassle, then you can also get the spells by killing and looting the almighty chicken of Riverwood. All in all, this is an incredible mod. Big respects to the mod author for still producing Skyrim mods like this in 2020. This should definitely have a place in your load order, especially if you're doing a mage playthrough. But let's be honest here, you'll probably end up doing the Stealth Archer again, right? And now, ladies and gentlemen, we're still not done, as we go from this year's greatest mage mod to what is probably the most intriguing hair mod to come out as of yet in 2020. This is SgtG's Hairdo's Retextures by the mod author Shingles Cat. Hair's definitely one of the first features we notice when seeing another person, and it can alter looks in all kinds of ways. And let's face it, some good, newly conditioned and taken care of hair is something we all can appreciate. No offense of course to you bald people watching. A shiny head can be quite as impressive as well, I guess? Anyways, as the name of the mod suggests, it provides new hair textures for our beloved hairstyles from the very popular KS Hairdo's mod, with the mod author having pretty much retextured every straight hair. Not only does the detailed hair strands look more individualized in a way, but the hair simply looks more real and less plasticky than the original texture. textures. It's definitely got that realistic rough look, while at the same time keeping that fabulousness of beautiful hair we all love. And with hair being such an important feature of any look, again, sorry bald peeps, the mod definitely makes a noticeable change to your characters, freshening up the look of your game. It affects the male KS hairdo's hairstyles as well, so it's got you covered on both fronts. It is also indeed compatible with KS hairdo's HDT SMP physics, meaning you'll be able to stare in awe as your character flings their head of hair around in what is a fantastic sight of tangles and curls swinging in the air. The mod simply brings your Skyrim hair game to another level, and when in use with the physics, it springs some wonderful life into your characters. If you're even half as much an admirer of the hair graphics as I am, then this mod, as a Mandalorian would say, this is the way. Last up, this of course wouldn't be a video in our somewhat weekly Skyrim mod series without some type of mod offering garment to put on top of your skin to keep you from revealing your private areas. What the fuck am I saying? Forget about that. The Dark Brotherhood Assassin's armors look bad. I've always thought they'd look kinda silly. Not only does it barely offer any form of protection, at least visually, but it looks really uncomfortable. I mean, my crotch is screaming just by looking at his. So let's find a way to fix this as we take a look at Sith's armor, Special Edition by JRC0011. This, ladies and gentlemen, this is it, okay? This is some proper contract completing assassin shit right here. This is not just a standard port of the Sith's armor from Aldrim to SC, but a complete remaster with textures and some of the models having been overhauled. From top to toe, this armor looks badass, and with the straps and little satchels for your belongings, as well as the trademark color theme of the Brotherhood and its logos to be found all over it, it's certainly lore friendly. Now, together with the main mod, I also recommend installing the Mastercraft version by Shadris as well, a mod that expands the scope and compatibility of the armor by doing stuff like altering the requirements to craft the armor and making it compatible with the popular Frostfall among a couple of other mods. The armor comes in both this heavy variant with those plates on top for maximized defensive usage, as well as a darker light version, focusing more on mobility. There's also some nice customization in the changeable head parts of the armor, where together with the hood and the mask look, you can take off the mask, take off the hood, or go with other variations of the mask. All of these variations look very good, and you will definitely find yourself to be more than satisfied with one of these for your ultimate Dark Brotherhood assassin look. It's also worth mentioning here that with the Mastercraft version I recommended to install earlier, you also get 2 new variants of the outfit. Now, as assassins are of course looking to perform the cleanest of assassinations to complete their assignments with perfection, they're in need of good tools, and that they get in form of 4 brand new weapons. First, there's the big two-handed sword, for when you find yourselves in situations where you gotta go all out. A one-handed sword for when you need to float like a butterfly and sting like a bee. A good-looking dagger, perfect to perform those stealthy assassinations, and a bow, because a bow is cool. A bow is nice. This, ladies and gentlemen, is indeed a fine high-quality armor set to add to your game. Ignoring the fact that using the mod together with my HDT SMP physics mod resulted in some weird stuff, it's definitely a mod I can recommend, especially if you're doing an assassin playthrough. And that's it for today, everyone. I hope you enjoyed watching this, and if you've actually made it all the way to the end here, why not just drop a little like, as it's the best way to support the channel. As always, make sure to endorse the mods on Nexus, as none of this would be possible without all the mod authors' immense efforts to improve our experience and immersion in the world of Skyrim. Oh, and make sure to hit that subscribe button and ring the bell icon, because a lot of you actually don't. Trust me, I see the analytics. And does it break my heart? Yes, I'm not gonna lie, it kinda does. So make sure to subscribe to cure my broken heart. Anyway, this has been Gim. May your road lead you to warm sands, everybody. See ya.